back again because we are doing NYRB summer. Hey, don't you dare scratch my couch. You are 11 years old and you've literally never done that in your entire life, and now you think you're gonna scratch my couch? No. Anyway, we are participating in NYRB summer because I love their designs and I feel like a lot of the stories that they pick are super unique. So here's my NYRB summer blog. The goal here is to read one NYRB title a month in the summer. So at least 3, if I can handle, but I thought that 3 would be a good happy medium between everything that I already have planned this summer and being able to participate in NYRB summer, you know, as a whole. So we're gonna do one a month. My June pick is My Friends by Emmanuel Bove. The summary says, Victor Batten is speaking, and he is a classic little man of no talent or distinction or importance, and with no illusions that he has any of those things either. In fact, if he is exceptional, it is that life's most basic transactions seem to confound him more than they do the rest of us. All Victor wants is to be loved, all he wants is a friend, and as he strays through the streets of Paris in search of love or friendship, or some fleeting connection, we laugh both at Victor's meekness and at his odd pride. But we feel with him too. Victor is, after all, a kind of everyman, the indomitable knight of human fragility, and in spite of everything, he, or at least his creator, is some kind of genius, investing the back streets and rented rooms of the city and the unsorted moments of daily life with a weird and unforgettable clarity. Sounds interesting, is quite short. It's only like 130 pages, so I think I will finish this pretty quickly, pretty soon. That was why I kind of picked this as my starter book. Let's dive into this and we will figure out what I'm gonna read next month. Hello. I have returned. I know it doesn't look any different, but I've returned because I didn't take down my camera before I started. I'm about 35 pages into this. I really hope this is not like Murakami, because 35 pages into it and he has mentioned boobs 4 times. Sounds like a man.
Natalie, stick your head up. use the litter box.
Happy NYRB summer. First NYRB is down. My friends by Manuel Bove. I would give it probably a 3.5 because, I mean, it was exceptionally French. The voice, the vibe, the setting, like it's what you would expect of in a French novel. Very simple, nothing too crazy complicated, sad, melancholy, and angsty in a very French way. I literally read it in like 2 days. Like, it was really easy read. Reason for asking, or a reason like to answer them, like it's like trying at points to be so deep when the lack of like detail, description, expansion kind of like made something like an illusion of depth basically in some parts. But it wasn't like unenjoyable because of that. I just like don't think it really hits that hard, but I love the colors, so I'm super happy because this finally came in the mail. Yes. Ordered it on Pango, and then like 2.5 weeks go by and it didn't come, but it was like really cheap, and so I was like, just message the seller. I didn't like cancel the order or anything, and I messaged her and got no response for another 1.5 weeks, and then suddenly it's like, your book is shipped and it's here. So I got it eventually. I got it for a price that was affordable for me, and I'm actually super excited for this Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babbitt to be the July NYRB summer bag. I feel like I only gave it a 3.5 though because it posed a lot of questions that it never really gave like a okay, it's really fucking hot. It's the middle of the summer and I had to turn my AC off so that you could hear me. Eve's Hollywood. I'm really enjoying, actually. The only thing is she did mention her grandpa was a Zionist, but she also talked about him in a very like unconnected way. She didn't know him very well, and the memories that she had of him were very short and minuscule in the grand scheme of things, and she's pretty radical outside of that. So I'm thinking it was more just like oh, this is the detail. And she talks about how, you know, she doesn't believe in God and like all of these like things about her experience as a Jewish woman kind of living outside of those normal rules and things like that. So just something I've been thinking about, keeping an eye out while I've been reading. But other than that, I have been tabbing a little bit because some of her quotes are super, super beautiful. Like her writing is very well done. It does remind me of Dolly Alderton a little bit, but like a similar kind of style. I just think that Eve Babbitt's just does it a little bit better. A little bit more dreamy, which I tend to like. The imagery in here is really well done. I think that's the thing that she excels at the most, is really evoking the vision of her experiences and the things that she went through. About halfway through, and I am quite enjoying it. I'm really behind on the NYRB summer because this is only my second. August, like 5th or something. This was supposed to be done by the end of July. But I did pick up a couple more NYRBs over the past couple of months. So I might have some extras to read before the summer is over. I'm still waiting for an NYRB book that really like just hits it home. Hits it home for me. I just haven't read a perfect NYRB for me. And so I am definitely on the lookout for my favorite NYRB because I don't think any of them could really qualify as my favorite so far. I am quite enjoying this one. NYRB summer. NYRB summer. Okay. I finished Eve's Hollywood by Eve Babbitt, which I actually really immensely enjoyed. Her writing is so fun. It feels like poetry in a very like light and airy way, but like just some of the stories she told, like it literally made you feel like you were sitting down with a friend and she was just being like, oh my god, this one time, you know, this and then this and this happened. And I really enjoyed that feeling. It was super easy and quick to breeze through, actually. And it did take me a little longer, but I think that was more so because like I just haven't been reading very much and not because of the length of this book. I like want to find the Eve Babbitt's of like everywhere, because this is the kind of like window into a time and window into a place that like I love to read. And so like to find like the epitomic writer of the local scene of just like everywhere that exists on earth, that's my goal with my like read around the world challenge. So like reading this was just fun and had me thinking of like, oh, maybe I should read something by Joan Didion, but I don't know if I'm ready to go that deep into the intellectual girl lifestyle to give in to the Joan Didion. But I did like this a lot. I think probably give it a 4. She did say her grandpa was a Zionist, and I didn't like that, but then like everything else that she expressed in her life really went against all of that. At least that was until like she got really old and like went crazy, kind of like Prince did, it sounds like became like really religious and conservative like right at the end of life and stuff like that. I don't know, I have conflicted feelings about her, but the period in time that she writes about here does seem fun for sure. Next I picked up the summer book by Tove Jansson, which is, I didn't know, the lady that wrote the Moomins, those kids books. I actually didn't know when I bought this that was her. I've actually flown through it, more than halfway through it, and I read it, and I started it like literally last night, and I just think that the writing feels like slipping into like a perfect pool, like a pool at the perfect temperature, just like the smoothest like flow like ever. And I was like, oh, it's on an island, so it's gonna be like an island summer, which like it's just not the kind of summer that I normally experience because I've only been to the beach very few times, unfortunately. So sometimes summer books disconnect themselves from me because they don't always portray the same summer that I experience on average, and then I think like a lot of people experience. But this is different. This feels more like a descriptor of home, and then some parts are about like the specifics of an island. But then a lot of the summer descriptors in here do feel like very applicable to a large audience, like a general audience, like the way that she describes her cats laying out in the sun on a rock, or
The way that she describes laying underneath like a fan during an unbearably hot day. There is so much more than just an island summer held within the pages of this book, and that's the genius of it, because she really does capture summer in her book, and not just like her own type of summer. I feel like she captures a very universal picture of summer. I think next I'm gonna pick up The Stoner, finally. That's probably going to be our last read of the summer, because I don't know if you know this, but it's September 2nd.
She's cute. She is cute. I really loved this. I really did. It was just so easy to read. Like, I don't know what it is, but it felt more like an absorbing experience than like a reading experience. Maybe that sounds ridiculous, but I just felt like I was like melding with the words and the world more so than I was reading about another place. It feels so homey and comforting, even if the scenarios or the situations or the places are not familiar to the places that, you know, you like normally experience. I thought this was just so beautiful. I've never read a Moomin book, but it's made me want to pick one up because this was just so lighthearted in a way that I have a hard time getting into. I'm such a serious reader. I love the drama. I love the intensity and like the maximum volume. And this is just like the antithesis of everything that I loved in a great way that made me love it, despite it being the antithesis of everything that I normally love. It is soft and gentle, and it's more so, despite the description on the back, it's more so about the grandmother. I don't even know if I've told you what this book was about. This book is basically the way that Tove Jansson dealt with the death of her own mother. She used it as a way to like cope with that grief And it's a story about a little girl who lives on an island with her grandmother and her father after her mother has passed away, and this experience that this little girl goes through in trying to form a better relationship with her grandmother because she now relies on her more. And I thought it was just so beautiful, and not what you would think, because it's more so about the grandmother than it is the little girl, which I love when like the focus is an old character. Like I love those like characters with depth and age, and so getting into that was just like so enjoyable. It's not a 5, but it's definitely a 4. It was an absolutely wonderful book to read on vacation and in the recent like beautiful like end of summer days that we've had, especially because it ends with the end of their summer. Seriously, so glad I found this one and picked it up. And now this might not even make it into the video because it will depend on if I can finish this thicky small text before the end of the month. Stoner by John Williams. This is the thing that inspired me to start collecting NYRBs because I love the way that this copy looks. I've heard so many amazing things about it. It's about solitude, and I love things that are written about solitude and ponder on the idea of like solitude and things like that. And I hope I like it. I really do, because this is the first NYRB that I bought, the one that attracted me to looking into the publisher in the first place. I haven't even started it because I'm very nervous about it. I can at least read the introduction. How long is the introduction? 14 pages. There have been worses. Dude, I've never read an introduction that was as good as the introduction in the Penguin Classics version of Death of a Salesman. That introduction, literally prime, one of the most amazing introductions I've ever read. I've never forgotten it. It's made me think and ponder about literature, and specifically about Arthur Miller and his own literature that he wrote. And it did everything that an introduction is supposed to do for you, especially for a classic. And I've never tasted that fruit of the gods that that was put into that introduction since. And I just want more introductions to be like that, because that's what an introduction is supposed to be like. If you've never read it, go to a bookstore, find the copy, pick it up, and read the introduction, and then you can put the copy back, because that's all you need. You literally don't even need to read Death of a Salesman immediately. That introduction is in itself like its own beauty and piece of art about Arthur Miller and his works. And like, oh, I could maybe this will be the introduction that meets the expectations. The end of summer is here, but nyrb summer never ends. I'm literally 28 pages into this, and like, I am connecting so hard with the solitude of Stoner. And, you know, I've had a really great summer. Been kind of broke all summer, but, you know, it's just the society that we live in today, that everybody's perpetually broke. And so, like, I've had a great summer, but I think that I've had a really lonely summer. There have been a few, like, bright moments of connection with other people, but I think I've definitely tended towards isolating myself because I've really been trying to get an understanding of my creative drive. Feel like I have a better handle on my creativity. I understand it better than I did, because when I started this project almost 2 years ago, I didn't understand what it was like to be creative at all. So the past couple of years, I've just spent all of that time trying to be creative. But because of the way that I create, a lot of that time is time spent alone. I used to like be and see other people that I loved and cared about like 5 or 6 times a week. I think that's the hardest part for me about coping with my late 20s that I've noticed, is the energy drain that comes from being social. And like, it's so hard to balance the recuperation with the connection. For me it is, at least. Reading can be such a lonely hobby, and I think that's why a lot of us reach out, and why so many of us, you know, do what we can to connect over books with other people. You sit there, you listen to a 14-hour audiobook, you read a 500-page book. Like, you've spent so much time alone, like, and removed from being like present. Like, not in a bad way, just when you're in a book, you're in another world. And that trip to another world, to another place, it is hard sometimes to not feel like you've suddenly lost like time of your own. And I think that's like why those like stories of like all of those people who talk about how much they used to read, and how the reason that they used to do that because they never made any plans, they never left their house. I just feel like those stories are so important because they are a really realistic vision of what it is like to be a reader, and how you are taking in all of these brand new perspectives and learning so much about other people at the same time as like separating yourself from them. Like, it's such a paradox almost, in a way. All of this is just to say, this is hitting really hard. If you can't tell by my emotional state on page 28. I have no idea what I'm in store for the rest of this year, but I am loving the writing, which is, I think, with like classics, with things that aren't plot heavy, the writing is the most instrumental part to me. But like but he found that he had nothing to say to them. Already he realized he and his parents were becoming strangers, and he felt his love increased by its loss. He returned to Columbia a week earlier than he had intended. I don't think that the isolation that comes with literature is what is the focal point of this book. But I do think that the themes that are being presented in this book already are inspiring a lot of ponderance about isolation and literature and the intersection of those two things. Maybe here is the send-off to Lonely Summer and the beginning of a friend-filled fall. Fingers crossed. Obviously I have to put in my own effort, but after all that reading and all that editing that I've done the past year and a half, I think it might be time to emerge from my YouTube pit. Anyway, watch me as I continue to fall apart, because like, if this is an indication 28 pages in of like what the rest of it is in store for me, you know, I'm about to descend. Into where? No idea. But I'm about to descend.
Honey, you've got a big storm coming.
It occurred to him that he was nearly 60 years old,
and that he ought to be beyond the force of such passion, of such love. But he was not beyond it, he knew, and would never be. Beneath the numbness, the indifference, the removal, it was there, intense and steady. It has always been there. In his youth, he had given it freely, without thought. He had given it to the knowledge that had been revealed to him, how many years ago? By Archer Sloane. He had given it to Edith in those first blind, foolish days of his courtship and marriage, and he had given it to Catherine as if it had never been given before. He had, in odd ways, given it to every moment of his life, and had perhaps given it most fully when he was unaware of his giving. It was a passion neither of the mind nor of the flesh. Rather, it was a force that comprehended them both as if they were but the matter of love, its specific substance. To a woman or to a poem, it simply said, "Look, I am alive." Hi. I gotta compose myself so I can portray something smart about this. If you've ever seen the movie Midnight Cowboy, it's an old 80s movie about a man who goes to New York to become a midnight cowboy, which is a sex worker, in an attempt to escape his abusive family that he lived with in Texas. And it is a series of unfortunate events, and this is exactly what this one is. But it's so I feel like so often people try so hard, spend their whole life trying to get all of these good things, trying to bring themselves success, trying to bring themselves love, trying to bring themselves just good things in their life. But I feel like stories like this really remind you that you can't define an entire life by good or bad. There are mistakes made, and there are disappointments, and there are goals that are never achieved, but the value of life is in the experience of life itself. No matter the negatives or positives experienced, like, it's the experience itself that is the value. And this book shows that in such like an uncommunicatable way. I'm really trying, like, with everything, to stop crying, one, which I'm not being successful at, and two, to describe this book really evokes like an undescribable feeling in you. He talks so much about the feelings that literature can inspire within you that you don't have words for itself. The moments of inspiration that you can't define in a communicatable way. And this leaves you so much with that feeling. As a reader, I saw so much of myself inside of this book that, it had turned me into this, and this is the state that I'm left with at the end. Because I felt so familiar to William Stoner. His assessment of love that he has in here is so beautiful. It's been a really long time since a book has hit me like this. You are so inside of his head the whole time. He describes the vague summaries of conversations instead of writing out dialogue, and I think that really immerses you inside the head of William Stoner, and it really allows you to know this man as if he were a friend, as if he were standing before you. William Stoner is such, like, the way he's written, like, it's just such an evocative characterization. Like, sorry, I was just talking about the book.
I was just coming to make sure you were okay.
Yeah, I'm okay. I love you.
I love you.
William Stoner is such, like, a human, like, person. Like, that's so silly to say, but I think even people that don't find themselves similar to William Stoner can find their life in his, because of how well the pieces are all put together, how exposed some of the inner parts of his being are to the reader. Dude, why didn't I read this? as American literature, like, if I was introduced to American literature with this book, I wouldn't deeply hate American literature like I do now. This is absolutely stunning, and it blew me away in a way that I never thought that an American classic could ever do. I'm really blown away. Thank you to everybody who's ever posted about this book, because I wouldn't have known about it if you hadn't done that. Literally, I'm trying to decide if it's a new favorite. It's definitely a 5-star. Absolutely. I'm so happy, you know, we found a 5-star by the end of this video, but I'm gonna be thinking about this one for a really long time. Thanks for listening to me cry for 10 minutes. I'll be back. Hello, I'm back. It is hours later. I have recovered. I have recouped. I have done self-care for the rest of the day because Stoner by John Williams absolutely wrecked me. I don't know if I even ever described what this was about, but this is about a farm boy who goes to college to get a degree in agriculture and ends up finding literature, falling in love with it, and becoming a part of the school system forever. It's very simply the story of a man who becomes a professor of literature in his life. Like, dark academia as a genre, maybe, but this, academia as a genre. I really loved it. I just thought all of the politics and, like, thinking about the ways that professors' relationships with their subjects evolved was so interesting. This book subverts so many expectations in weird ways. I feel like William Stoner, our main character, is so different from the work-obsessed, distant fathers of the period, ones that you really commonly see here in this period of American literature. Like, if anything, like, his wife ends up filling that role, and in this, like, kind of like subversion of expectations, you create very realistic characters. And as I mentioned earlier, the, like, lack of dialogue in here is such an interesting choice because we're so, like, entirely inside of Stoner's head the whole time, despite the book being in third person. It, like, really creates this, like, huge inner world that the reader gets to explore and almost evolve along with. One that is, like, equally as real as the, like, reality that Stoner is also experiencing in time. And I think that that is so much about part of the theme of the book, is that the mental and the physical come together to create the whole, and to attempt to separate them can cause discomfort or you know, suffering and things like that. And so I think that the dichotomy of the inner thoughts of Stoner and his experiences, the way that they were woven together, were so masterfully done. Like, literally, the writing in here is phenomenal. And, like, the way that John Williams describes, like, the speechlessness of literature, how, you know, I personally spend so much time trying to describe, trying to distill the feelings that literature has given me and trying to share it. And so much of this book is about how that feeling is so unspeakable, so difficult to formulate words that truly compare to the experience of reading, of being inspired by reading, of loving literature. And then the fact that there's no resolution, there's just the end, is so poignant as well, because human lives aren't something to be resolved. They aren't something that comes to a close naturally. They aren't something that resolves every issue by the end of it. They just end, and oftentimes in ways that we don't expect them to. And the full picture that you get of this character that John Williams has created it feels so real. Like, so amazing, dude. Wow. Hello and welcome one and all, to
the end of NYRB summer. I have had a great time. Honestly, better than I was expecting. It's definitely one of the more enjoyable reading challenges that I've participated in. I think NYRB has such like a talent for minute descriptions. I feel like every title that I've read from them has just been filled with so many descriptions of things that you might think don't matter or things that you might think are insignificant, and the writing and the way that they're described creates significance for them. And I think, you know, despite the varying styles and things that I've read so far, it's just so supremely detailed, and it's beautiful to read. And I almost finished every NYRB that I owned. I have one more left on my shelf. The Door by Zabo, I think is his name. And just a lovely summer as well. Like I said earlier, I do think that this summer has been really lonely for me, and so I'm hoping to break out of that loneliness. I can't tell, but I think that these two are slightly taller than these two, and I don't know if that's like usual, but it's literally like a fourth of an inch, and it really bothers me. Anyway, this was just such a great book to end it off with. I loved Eve Babbitt's writing more than I expected to. My Friends was okay. It was just fine. There was not enough there for it to make an impression, and the summer book, I thoroughly enjoyed the vibes. Truly a great lineup. Everything, I didn't hate anything. We love it when you do a reading challenge and you don't hate any of the things that you had to read. It's always a plus. Pretty sure that this challenge was started by The Written Route on Instagram, so go and check out their stuff, because I really love the reviews that they give. I've been loving the NYRBs that they have been reading all summer long, so definitely go and check that out. They're the one that inspired me to pick the NYRBs up for the summer, and I've had a great experience. It's been a wonderful addition to my summer reading, just having an NYRB always in my back pocket. I've super enjoyed it, so shout out to them for doing that. Like, comment, and subscribe. I would love to have you keep me company here next video, which will be my fall TBR. I really appreciate you watching, joining, and I hope you take care of yourself.